From Washington, this is VOA News. Iran's foreign minister says an agreement is possible in Friday's nuclear talks, and Typhoon Haiyan comes ashore in the Philippines. I'm David Byrd reporting from Washington. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammed Javad Zarif says an agreement with 6 world powers to resolve a decade-long standoff over Tehran's nuclear program is possible by the end of talks Friday. As VOA's Pessin reports, the statement came after a tough day of negotiations in Geneva.
A senior U.S. official says the negotiators are working on a first-step agreement that would freeze and perhaps roll back Iran's nuclear program in return for some limited relief from crippling economic sanctions. But how much each side would do in this first step is still in dispute. The official, who spoke on condition of anonymity, says that would give the negotiators more time to work out the complex details of a long-term agreement on Iran's nuclear program and potentially a full lifting of sanctions. Experts believe that agreement would have to allow Iran to enrich uranium, but would put limits on the extent of enrichment and provide for inspections to reassure the international community that Iran is not collecting fuel for a nuclear bomb. Pessin, VOA News, Geneva.
For more on this story, please log on to our website, www.voanews.com. The world's strongest tropical cyclone of the year has begun pounding the central Philippines after President Benigno Aquino ordered mass evacuations to reduce the risk of disaster. Reports from the island's chain say that Typhoon Haiyan, that is, known as Yolanda in the Philippines, came ashore before dawn Friday morning. The U.S. Joint Typhoon Warning Center said prior to landfall, Haiyan had maximum sustained winds of 315 kilometers per hour near its center, with gusts of 380 kilometers per hour. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says it is critical for a final status agreement between Israel and the Palestinians to be reached. Mr. Kerry said significant progress was made in recent talks. At a news conference in Amman with Jordanian Foreign Minister Nasser Judah, Kerry said Israeli and Palestinian leaders have reaffirmed their commitment to peace negotiations, despite what he called clear tensions.
The purpose is to explore and discuss and examine the various possibilities of how we can resolve very complicated issues in ways that meet the needs of both parties.
Following his stop in Jordan, Secretary Kerry is due to visit the United Arab Emirates, Algeria, and Morocco. Ugandan officials say hundreds of M23 rebels from neighboring Congo have surrendered and are in Ugandan custody. As Hillary Hewler reports from Kampala, about 1,500 fighters are being held on the Congolese border with Uganda.
The Ugandan Defense Ministry says around 1,500 fighters from the Congolese rebel group M23 surrendered to the Ugandan military and are currently being held near the Congolese border. M23 announced earlier this week that it is abandoning a 20-month insurgency in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo after the rebels lost the last of their territory to the Congolese army. Speaking from the Ugandan capital, Kampala, Ministry of Defense spokesman Paddy Nkunda said the M23 fighters had defected, although it was not yet clear what would be done with them. Last year, the DRC accused both Uganda and Rwanda of supporting M23. Both countries deny the allegations. Hilary Hewler for VOA News, Kampala.
The social blogging site Twitter debuted Thursday on the New York Stock Exchange. The stock opened with a price of $45.10, but closed the day at $44.90. Brian Blau is a consumer technology research director at Gartner Research Company.
Twitter really has to make sure they perform well. Quarter by quarter, they're going to have to show increases in user engagement and user growth. Twitter's going to have to show a move towards profitability and a reduction in the expenditures that they have.
Wall Street ended trading down nearly 1% on Thursday. Markets were mixed in Europe. For more on these stories, please be sure to log on to our website, www.voanews.com. I'm David Byrd in Washington.